In this video, I am going to be making some vegan cheese. I'm going to be making 3 different recipes because they're all meant for different purposes, different recipes in mind. And so I'm just gonna get started with the first cheese now. All right, so for the ingredients I'm using in this first cheese, I have some cashews, water, psyllium husk, maple syrup, miso, coconut oil, nutritional yeast, lactic acid, agar-agar, tapioca flour, rice vinegar, and salt. So when it comes to this recipe, the first thing that I did that you don't see in the video is I pre-soaked the cashews in some water. I actually soaked them for 24 hours, just in the water, covered, and in the fridge. So that way they are soaked and they are softer, so that way they mix better in the cheese. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mix the psyllium husk in the water, and I'm going to let that sit for a couple minutes. So psyllium husk, when it is in your body, it mixes with water and it actually helps remove waste through your intestinal tract, and psyllium husk is a great source of fiber. And so essentially what I'm doing is I'm just soaking it in the water, and it's going to expand a bit, and it's going to form a little bit more like almost a little bit more gelatinous, and that's going to help us with our texture in this cheese. So I have that sitting now. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring everything else together and I'm going to blend it. And then I will add the psyllium husk and water to the blender and blend that as well. Now the cheese mixture is fully combined, it's nice and smooth and creamy. I'm going to add it over medium heat, and I'm going to mix it until it gets kind of gooey and stretchy. When that is done, I'm going to add it to the fridge and let it cool down for a couple hours. Yep, and that's about what we're looking for there. You can see that it's stretchy, pretty gooey. Didn't take too long. And I'm just gonna remove it from the heat, add it to a bowl, and let it cool. Okay, so we have the cheese that is supposed to be grateable and melt on everything when you heat it and cook it in the fridge. Now I'm going to be moving on to just simply a vegan cheese that melts when you cook it. And so let's jump right into the ingredients that we're going to be using. Okay, so I have some salt, soy milk, oil, tapioca flour, nutritional yeast, lemon juice, and plant-based yogurt. This one should be pretty simple. I'm just going to take all of the ingredients except for the yogurt and except for the lemon juice. I'm going to add them to a pot. I'm going to mix it up really well, and I'm going to have it on medium heat and heat it until it is kind of a gluey texture. Then I'm going to be adding in the yogurt and the lemon. looks about right to me, so I'm gonna remove it from the heat. Okay, so I'm gonna add in the yogurt. And now the lemon juice. Okay, so that is cheese number 2. I'm just going to add that to a bowl, and I'm gonna get that cooling in the fridge as well with cheese number 1. Then I'm gonna get the ingredients together and make the final cheese, which that cheese is going to be, or that cheese is supposed to be kind of like a vegan American cheese. I'm gonna get those ingredients and then I will get started on that cheese. Okay, for the next cheese, for the ingredients, I have paprika, turmeric, tapioca flour, salt, agar-agar nutritional yeast, plant-based milk, and plant-based yogurt. I should be in for a pretty simple process on this cheese. I'm going to add it all to a blender, mix it all up really well, make sure it's completely combined. Then I'm gonna add it to some heat, bring it to a medium heat, let it cook for 5 minutes. All right, and now I'm going to take this cheese off of the heat. So now this cheese is supposed to be like American cheese, which is often in slices. So I'm going to go ahead and pour it on a pan with some aluminum foil that has been oiled. And I'm gonna add it to the fridge and let it cool for about an hour or so. And then I'll remove it and, cut it up. Okay, so that is the 3 different vegan cheeses. So vegan cheese number 1 was a grated cheese. Now what I'll say is that the cheese it grated very, very fine. So that works out. You can also cut it with a knife and change the size of that. I would just advise that you go with maybe putting it in the freezer for about an hour and then the fridge for about an hour, just to make sure that the actual cheese itself hardens up a bit, so that way it's easier for you to really kind of get in there and grate it. As when I was using it, it was a bit softer, and that's why I couldn't apply a lot of pressure, and so it grated pretty fine. Now it is definitely a sweeter cheese. You can see one of the grates here. It's a sweeter cheese. You get the cashew in it, so you do get that nuttiness. If that's something you want to avoid, then this wouldn't be the cheese for you. However, it does have good flavor. I did put it in the oven and cook it, and it did start melting up a bit. So it has some of that meltiness. It has the ability to grate, and it tastes pretty good. So I would say that's a good cheese. You could use it for, you know, pizza. You could use it for pasta dishes, either way. Cheese number 2 was a pretty gooey cheese. As you can see it here, it's kind of starting to fall down there and ooze. So it has a good flavor. One bonus is that there's no nuts used in it, and so you don't get any of that nuttiness. So it's pretty mild in flavor, and I would say that this one has more of a melting effect. I don't know if it will pull so much if you cook it longer, but it definitely has some pull and softness, similar to mozzarella cheese, if you go with that cheese. But good flavor, does the job of meltiness, but doesn't necessarily look so great otherwise, because it just forms to whatever container you're having it in, which isn't necessarily a problem. So you can use it for pizza, you can use it for grilled cheese, really a lot of different options there, but it doesn't have a strong texture to it in order to shape it and have it maintain that shape. And so cheese number 3, this was the cheese that I was aiming to make kind of like an American cheese, and the last time you saw of it, it went into the fridge, and it was one sheet of mixture, right? So I took it out, and I was able to cut it into slices. So the first thing is again, I cooked it, and it definitely melted and it toasted up a bit. So that's great. This cheese is definitely your sliced lunch meat cheese, your burger cheese, anything like that. You're putting this on sandwiches, and the great thing is that you get the meltable, you get that meltiness, and so that's why you want to use that one for it. Now this cheese, I would say it has a bit of a smoky flavor. So did I nail the American cheese? Yes and no. So I get American cheese when I first start eating it, but then I get a smokiness coming through. So it's kind of like a mix between an American cheese and a Gouda cheese, because Gouda cheese has that smokiness. So you can change that smokiness by just simply not using paprika. And I think that this is the thing that's exciting and interesting when it comes to vegan cheese, and this cheese in specific, because you know, sky's the limit. You can just substitute a couple ingredients and change the flavor of it. What works really well is that the turmeric gives it that orangey color. So that's gonna help you get that American cheese color, or if you really wanna have that orangey cheese coming through on anything you're cooking, use that. So it works out really well. The flavor is good. I definitely enjoy it. I think that all 3 of these cheeses are successful in their own purpose. Again, the first one, you cool it a bit longer so it hardens a bit more, and you have a grated cheese. The second one, you have more of that runny cheese. It's still gonna have that pull to it, but it's also gonna be like that sauce cheese, and then you have your lunch cheese. So 3 viable options when it comes to cheeses, and all that's left to say is try it out and enjoy, because I'm your friend with food benefits, and I will see you again real soon.